In the vast tapestry of the galaxy, humanity was known as a species that prioritized peace. Through years of diplomacy, humanitarian aid, and cooperative ventures, they had cultivated a reputation as a civilization that valued harmony and mutual understanding above all else. To most alien species, humans were viewed as a stabilizing presence, a culture that avoided conflict and approached every dispute with reason and tolerance. This was a perception reinforced by humanity's actions. In countless situations, they had shown restraint, choosing negotiation over aggression, even in the face of provocation. But this preference for peace, while admirable, was often misinterpreted by other species. Many alien civilizations believed that humanity's calm demeanor stemmed from a lack of capability or courage. They assumed that humans avoided conflict not out of choice but out of necessity, interpreting diplomacy as a substitute for strength. The galaxy, filled with species who defined power through displays of force, found humanity's quiet approach almost amusing. To them, humans seemed naive, an earnest species willing to make concessions simply to avoid conflict, more interested in compromise than dominance. This assumption became a point of consensus in galactic circles, where humanity's behavior was often seen as predictable and passive. Alien leaders, military strategists, and diplomats alike believed they understood the limits of human resolve. Discussions on Earth's role in interstellar politics rarely entertained the idea that humans could pose a serious challenge. They were considered harmless and agreeable. Humanity's restraint, interpreted as submission, shaped the galaxy's view of Earth as a lesser power, a cooperative partner, yes, but certainly not a threat. Yet, beneath this surface-level reputation, humanity had a long history of resilience. The cultural value placed on peace had grown from experiences of intense conflict, hardship, and struggle. The path to stability had been earned through centuries of hardship, and peace was something humans actively chose, not because they lacked strength but because they understood the cost of war. However, this strength remained largely unseen by the galaxy, as humans rarely displayed the full extent of their capabilities. They believed that might was not a tool to be flaunted but rather a last resort, a line they would only cross when all other options had been exhausted. This philosophy, however, was easy for other species to overlook. Alien civilizations that hadn't experienced humanity's complex history saw only the surface. To them, humanity's calm presence was evidence of compliance rather than strength, a mark of innocence rather than wisdom. They failed to see the careful choice behind every diplomatic move and the restraint that defined Earth's interactions. Unbeknownst to them, humanity's seeming harmlessness was not an absence of power but a conscious, collective decision to prioritize peace over aggression. As more civilizations encountered humans, they largely bought into this misconception, allowing themselves to believe that humanity could be easily handled. This attitude spread, with even powerful species overlooking the depth of human resolve. While Earth was respected as a diplomatic ally, it was seldom regarded as a serious force. Humanity's gentle approach became its defining feature, and its true potential for strength remained hidden, underestimated by nearly all who observed them. And so, the galaxy settled into its assumptions. Humanity was welcomed as a peace-loving species, admirable in their principles but far from formidable. Alien civilizations continued with this perception, unaware that they had only seen a fraction of what humanity was capable of. In the quiet of Earth's diplomatic ventures, a deeper truth lay hidden, a strength concealed behind the choice for peace, a truth the galaxy was yet to understand. The perception of humanity as peaceful yet harmless led one particularly aggressive alien species, the Zarkali, to test Earth's patience. Known for their dominance-driven culture, the Zarkali interpreted diplomacy as a sign of weakness. They viewed Earth's careful negotiation and measured tone as an open invitation to push boundaries, seeing humanity's approach as a lack of will to defend itself if challenged. Confident in their superior strength, the Zarkali began a series of provocations, probing to see just how far they could go before humans would push back. At first, these provocations were subtle, almost veiled, intended to gauge humanity's response. The Zarkali assumed that humans, concerned with peace above all else, would concede. Small incursions into human-protected territories, demands for resources, and other disrespectful gestures were initially met with firm but calm resistance from Earth's representatives. Humanity responded with consistent diplomacy, reiterating their commitment to peace while asserting their right to sovereignty. But this response only further convinced the Zarqali that humans were unwilling to fight, that Earth's words were just that, words without the strength to back them. Emboldened by what they saw as humanity's hesitation, the Zarqali escalated their actions. They began to overstep, crossing boundaries deliberately and flaunting their presence in human territory. To the Zarqali, this was a display of dominance, a demonstration to show humans their place within the larger galactic order. They believed humanity would yield and avoid conflict, just as they assumed humanity had done with every other power. They misread Earth's diplomatic patience as submission, convinced that the human penchant for negotiation signaled a lack of resolve. Yet, humanity continued to hold its ground, issuing warnings that were firmer each time. Earth's leaders made it clear that while humanity sought peaceful coexistence, they would not tolerate the infringement of their rights or the disrespect of their people. Still, the Zarqali dismissed these warnings, treating them as empty gestures from a species too pacifistic to defend itself. To them, this restraint was evidence of weakness, and they pushed forward, increasing their aggressions in hopes of forcing humanity into compliance. Humanity's warnings grew more direct, but the Zarqali remained unfazed. To their minds, no species that truly possessed strength would hold back this long, and they assumed Earth's reluctance to retaliate was proof of their harmlessness. As the provocations continued, it became increasingly clear that the Zarqali saw humanity's restraint as an invitation. They failed to see the calculated decision behind each diplomatic response and misjudged the intent behind humanity's choice to avoid conflict. The Zarqali's provocations soon crossed into direct confrontation. They carried out small, strategic raids, targeting human installations and resources with minimal regard for the repercussions. These actions, aimed at undermining humanity's sense of security, were intended to compel Earth to either concede territory or face an open threat. To the Zarqali, this was merely the last step before Earth would fall in line, an inevitable outcome in their minds. They could not imagine a scenario where humanity would do anything but acquiesce. The galaxy watched with interest, most civilizations anticipating that humanity would continue on its path of peace, even if that meant yielding ground to the Zarqali. Few believed that humans would stand their ground against such an aggressive species. But humanity's patience, while profound, had its limits. Earth had made every effort to avoid escalation, choosing dialogue and restraint even as the provocations intensified. Now, however, humanity was reaching a breaking point. The Zarqali had misinterpreted patience as powerlessness, pushing Earth to a place where further tolerance was impossible. It was a dangerous assumption on the Zarqali's part, one that ignored the depth of humanity's resolve. What the Zarqali, and much of the galaxy, failed to understand was that Earth's commitment to peace was not a commitment to passivity. Humanity's restraint was not a sign of fear but a choice rooted in principle, a choice they were prepared to defend when necessary. The Zarqali's unrelenting provocations pushed humanity to the edge. With each incursion, each affront to their sovereignty, Earth's resolve only deepened. The final breaking point came when the Zarqali launched an unprovoked assault on a human outpost, inflicting damage and endangering lives. This was not a skirmish or a minor border incident, it was a direct attack, and for humanity, it crossed the line. The decision was made, diplomacy had run its course, and now humanity would respond in kind. The galaxy had never seen this side of humanity. Up until now, the restraint that defined Earth's approach had masked their true capabilities. But in this moment, as the news of the Zarqali assault spread, humanity's leaders made it clear that there would be no further tolerance. Public statements echoed with a firm resolve, signaling to both allies and observers that Earth would defend itself decisively. The message was unambiguous: peace was their preference, not their limitation. Other species watched with intrigue and growing concern. To them, humanity's shift was unprecedented. It shattered the assumptions many had held about humans' unwillingness to engage in conflict. The swift transition from patience to resolve was unnerving for those who had viewed humanity as a passive force. This sudden change in stance revealed that their diplomatic nature did not equate to helplessness, and the galaxy began to question whether they had underestimated Earth all along. In preparation, humanity mobilized quickly and efficiently. Decades of peaceful development had not dulled their strategic acumen, and their response was planned with careful precision. Military resources were activated, alliances reached out to, and tactical preparations began in earnest. Earth's leaders coordinated a calculated approach, designed to ensure the safety of their people while sending a message that would resonate beyond this immediate conflict. Their actions were not hasty but deliberate, an assertion of strength meant to correct the perception that had led the Zarkali to their error. The Zarkali, expecting humanity to back down as before, were unprepared for the scale of Earth's mobilization. They had interpreted the earlier warnings as posturing, believing that humans were bluffing. Now, as they faced the reality of an organized and committed human force, doubt began to creep into their ranks. The Zarkali leadership struggled to adjust, unable to comprehend that the species they had dismissed as harmless was now preparing to stand against them. They had not anticipated that their provocations would lead to this moment, and they found themselves at a loss as humanity's forces prepared to respond. The shift in humanity's stance rippled through the galactic community, sending an unmistakable signal. Earth had made every effort to avoid escalation, but the choice to defend their sovereignty was a clear indication that they would not compromise when threatened. This response went beyond mere retaliation, it was an assertion of their right to exist peacefully, without intimidation. In standing up to the Zarkali, humanity was also addressing the galaxy, making it clear that their preference for diplomacy did not diminish their willingness to act when necessary. As Earth's preparations neared completion, other civilizations began to reconsider their perceptions of humanity. The balance of power in the galaxy shifted subtly as species that had once viewed humans as weak started to see them in a new light. Humanity's patience, it turned out, had limits, and those limits were defended by an undeniable strength. This realization struck a chord among observers, reshaping alliances and altering the way other species calculated their own interactions with Earth. Humanity's decision to defend itself, while reluctant, was absolute. They had exhausted every diplomatic avenue and met each escalation with the hope of resolution. But now, standing on the brink of open conflict, they made it clear that any further aggression would be met with a forceful response. They had upheld peace until it was no longer feasible, and in doing so, had shown that their strength was not in aggression but in the capacity to defend their principles without hesitation. Humanity's response, once decided, unfolded with precision and purpose. Earth's forces launched a carefully orchestrated counteroffensive, showcasing tactics that had been refined over years of preparation. Each move was deliberate, every action aligned with a clear objective, to neutralize the Zarkali threat while minimizing unnecessary damage. This was no display of unchecked aggression, it was a calculated reminder that humanity, while peaceful by choice, had the capability to defend itself decisively. The Zarkali, taken by surprise, were unprepared for the level of sophistication in humanity's tactics. They had expected resistance, perhaps, but not the disciplined and relentless countermeasures now directed at their forces. Humanity's approach was strategic, focusing on disabling the Zarkali infrastructure, disrupting communications, and targeting key assets. The objective was clear, to protect Earth's sovereignty without descending into indiscriminate warfare. Each action demonstrated restraint, even as it left no doubt about humanity's strength. This methodical approach unsettled the Zarkali leadership, who began to realize the miscalculation they had made. What they had assumed to be harmless diplomacy was, in fact, a choice to uphold principles over brute force. Faced with the reality of humanity's capabilities, the Zarkali were forced to confront the full extent of their mistake. Their belief in humanity's passivity had blinded them to the strength behind Earth's patience, a strength now visible in the precise and unrelenting nature of the counterattack. As the operation progressed, humanity's actions caught the attention of the wider galactic community. The strategic clarity and restraint of Earth's response stood in stark contrast to the Zarkali's earlier provocations. Observers across the galaxy noted the focus and discipline with which humanity defended itself, realizing that Earth's forces were not acting out of vengeance but rather from a place of necessity and resolve. This distinction resonated deeply with other civilizations, who had previously viewed humanity's diplomatic nature as weakness. Now, they saw a force capable of holding its own, without succumbing to reckless aggression. The Zarkali, facing mounting losses, struggled to adapt. Their own tactics, designed around intimidation and overwhelming force, failed to match humanity's calculated precision. They had relied on fear to maintain dominance, a strategy that now left them vulnerable to Earth's coordinated response. The Zarkali found themselves outmatched, not by sheer power but by an organized and measured force, one that countered their aggression without losing sight of its goals. Humanity's campaign was as much a lesson as it was a defense. It showed that Earth's commitment to peace did not stem from a lack of strength but from a conscious choice. Every action reinforced the message that while humanity preferred diplomacy, it would not hesitate to protect its interests when pushed. The galaxy observed, absorbing the implications of this revelation. Humanity was a force defined by balance, one that could wield power without losing its principles. As the counteroffensive reached its final stages, the Zarkali leadership faced an undeniable truth. Humanity's resolve was unbreakable, and their patience had limits that, once crossed, invoked a response neither vengeful nor chaotic, but purposeful and exact. The Zarkali had misread humanity's restraint as an invitation to conquer, not understanding that Earth's peacekeeping stance was grounded in strength. Now, they witnessed the full extent of what humans were capable of when defending their own. In the aftermath of the conflict, humanity's message was clear: peace was always their preference, but they were not to be taken lightly. Their actions demonstrated that strength lay not in unchecked force but in the ability to choose when to exercise it. Earth's leaders had shown that humanity would uphold its values even in conflict, setting a new standard for how the galaxy viewed them. For the Zarkali and others watching, it was a humbling lesson, one that would reshape their assumptions and recalibrate how they approached the once underestimated species from Earth. The aftermath of humanity's counteroffensive sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Zarkali, once a dominant and feared force, were left to confront the reality of their defeat. Earth's response had been precise and controlled, a powerful statement that not only safeguarded their sovereignty but revealed a depth of strength the galaxy had not anticipated. For the Zarkali, this defeat marked a turning point. They realized that underestimating humanity had been a costly mistake. Their leaders, accustomed to asserting dominance, were now humbled, left to reconsider the assumptions that had led them to such a miscalculation. The galactic community took notice, their perception of humanity undergoing a profound shift. For years, the idea of humans as a gentle, passive species had been unchallenged. But now, their decisive actions against the Zarkali forced others to reconsider the depth of human resolve. Reports and discussions circulated among different civilizations, with leaders and diplomats reevaluating how they approached Earth. Humanity's capability for disciplined force, combined with their demonstrated preference for peace, revealed a complex and balanced strength that was far from the weakness many had assumed. Across other worlds, particularly those long subjected to intimidation by stronger powers, humanity's actions resonated deeply. The image of a peaceful species willing to stand up against aggression inspired a new respect for Earth. In quiet discussions and public statements alike, alien leaders acknowledged the unique approach humanity had taken, a commitment to defend itself only when absolutely necessary. This commitment struck a chord, redefining Earth as a species that valued autonomy and principles over submission, even in the face of formidable threats. On Earth, the success of the mission unified people with a renewed sense of pride. The events had proven that humanity's values of patience, diplomacy, and restraint were not signs of weakness but of choice, a deliberate decision to seek peace without forfeiting strength. People understood that their willingness to defend themselves had set a precedent, one that would impact their position in the galaxy for generations. This moment was not just a victory over the Zarkali, it was a declaration of humanity's place in the cosmos, a confirmation that Earth would not compromise its ideals under pressure. For the Zarkali, the impact of this defeat extended beyond military losses. Their credibility and influence, once built on fear, began to wane as their defeat became a matter of public knowledge. Other species, observing the outcome, saw in humanity's victory a reminder that power could be exercised without cruelty, that strength could serve to protect rather than oppress. The Zarkali, once viewed as an unbeatable force, now faced questions from their allies and rivals alike, who saw their defeat as a signal that even the strongest powers could be challenged if they crossed the line. Humanity's message reached every corner of the galaxy, reshaping its diplomatic landscape. Earth's leaders made it clear that their stance on peace was unwavering but would never come at the cost of their sovereignty. This statement, reinforced by their actions, was not a threat but a declaration of principle, one that resonated with other civilizations. The galaxy began to view Earth not just as a peaceful presence but as a force to be respected, one that valued cooperation but would not yield under intimidation. In the broader galactic context, Earth's actions served as a beacon of resilience. Civilizations that had long felt trapped under the influence of dominant powers found hope in humanity's stance. The knowledge that Earth, once underestimated, had shown its strength without abandoning its commitment to peace encouraged others to reconsider their own positions. Humanity's approach became a model for how to maintain integrity in the face of opposition, setting a standard for what it meant to wield power responsibly. The Zarkali, meanwhile, faced a humbling realization that power alone was not enough to guarantee authority. They had relied on intimidation and coercion, tactics that had ultimately proven ineffective against a species that chose when to exercise strength. The defeat forced them to reconsider their approach, recognizing that humanity's patience was a form of power in itself, a power that could not be manipulated or subdued through threats. It was a lesson that resonated deeply within the Zarkali leadership, altering their perspective on what constituted true strength. For Earth, this victory was more than a defense of their sovereignty, it was a legacy. Humanity had proven that peace, when protected with resolve, could be a formidable force. Their actions had set a new precedent, one that would influence how they were viewed in the galaxy for generations to come. Through their balance of patience and power, they had shown that strength need not come at the expense of principle. Earth had claimed its place among the stars, not by dominating others, but by standing firm in the values they held dear, earning the respect of allies and adversaries alike. Humanity's firm yet restrained stand against the Zarkali left a lasting impact that reshaped their position in the galaxy. Following the confrontation, Earth's leaders delivered a final message to the galaxy, reinforcing their commitment to peace while leaving no room for misinterpretation. Humanity valued harmony but would never surrender its sovereignty. This statement echoed across systems, affirming that humanity's preference for diplomacy was a strength, not a vulnerability, and that any aggression toward them would be met with equal resolve. This declaration set a new tone for humanity's relations with other civilizations. Earth's actions had sent a signal to both allies and distant observers. They were prepared to be peaceful partners but would not accept intimidation. Civilizations that had once dismissed humanity as a non-threatening presence now saw them as equals, partners who chose cooperation but remained fiercely protective of their independence. Humanity's approach inspired a cautious respect, showing the galaxy that true peace could coexist with strength and that autonomy was non-negotiable. Alien leaders took note of this shift, rethinking their own diplomatic approaches. Humanity's choice to defend itself only when necessary, and to do so with precision and restraint, presented a new model for power. Earth had shown that a civilization did not need to dominate to be formidable. Their approach redefined what it meant to be a respected force in the galaxy. Respect, humanity proved, was earned not through displays of aggression but through the consistency of one's principles. This inspired a renewed interest in Earth, with several civilizations seeking alliances and partnerships based on mutual respect and shared values. The Zarkali, now acutely aware of humanity's strength, retreated from the conflict with a revised understanding of Earth. They recognized that their defeat was not merely a military setback but a demonstration of humanity's unshakable commitment to its core principles. The Zarkali were forced to confront the limits of their intimidation-based strategies, realizing that humanity's patience had allowed them to act decisively only when provoked beyond reason. For the Zarkali, this marked a humbling recalibration of their approach, knowing now that humanity's restraint was born of choice, not fear. Across the galaxy, Earth's stand had far-reaching effects. Species that had long endured oppression or intimidation took heart in humanity's example. Many saw in Earth's actions a potential pathway to greater autonomy and respect. Diplomats from various systems reached out, eager to establish bonds with a civilization that valued its independence as much as its partnerships. Humanity had shown that maintaining peace and defending sovereignty were not mutually exclusive, inspiring a subtle but significant shift in galactic diplomacy. Earth itself underwent a transformation in the wake of these events. Citizens recognized that their collective strength was not in their ability to wage war but in their commitment to ideals that elevated the importance of peace without compromising security. Humanity had proven that they could uphold their principles without yielding to external pressures. This unity became a source of pride, reinforcing the understanding that humanity's values were their greatest strength, an anchor that allowed them to engage confidently with a diverse and complex galaxy. As humanity's role in the galactic community evolved, their influence grew in a way that extended beyond military might. They became known not only as skilled negotiators but as protectors of balance, unafraid to act when necessary but careful never to overstep. This balance between strength and diplomacy became humanity's defining characteristic, a reputation that attracted allies and deterred aggressors. Earth's leaders continued to emphasize cooperation while remaining clear that peace could not be mistaken for weakness. In the end, humanity's message was simple but powerful: they were committed to peace, but they were not harmless. Their choice to defend their principles with measured strength reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power. Earth had claimed its place as a species that valued coexistence yet held fast to the freedom to shape its own destiny. This legacy resonated through the stars, securing humanity's standing not through conquest or intimidation but through the strength of their convictions, setting an example for generations to come.